Hey guys, really quickly before we get into this episode, I just really needed to let you know something important and something I'm sure you probably didn't know but need to know. Chuck Norris doesn't have an escape button on his keyboard. Now let's get into the stories. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I've lived in the same apartment for 4 years. My neighbors in the unit above me are a couple in their 30s who have lived there for about 3 years with no issues between us. During the past 6 months, I've noticed some changes in their behavior. At first, it was just a few days per week. I'd hear music with heavy bass, accompanied by rhythmic jumping. I also assumed they bought an exercise bike or something. But sometimes, the jumping gets so intense that it shakes my overhead light fixtures. The jumping routine has been escalating to the point that it takes place every day now, normally between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. I also noticed that they called 1-800 junk and got rid of a lot of their nice possessions. However, I figured none of this was my business, so I just kept my observations to myself. About 3 weeks ago, everything escalated. Multiple times per week, on weekdays and during working hours. It sounds like they're hosting a mini Burning Man event inside their apartment. The music is so loud and clear that it sounds like I'm at a concert while sitting in my living room. There's clearly a lot of people involved because the jumping and stomping shakes multiple light fixtures and cabinets. The music is a mix of new age, spiritual vibes, dance beats, and a male voiceover giving weird instructions like, rebrand yourself, surrender yourself. Then a stomp in response. I've taken audio recordings on my phone and one video from the hallway during these events. I still didn't complain to the building, but I wanted evidence in case it became a regular thing. This week, I've encountered a big problem. The couple above me has a private patio, which is directly above my bedroom. I came home from a 3-day trip out of town yesterday, and my ceiling is legitimately collapsing in one corner. Big chunks of plaster had fallen onto the ground, and I saw a little bit of water. I immediately called my superintendent since I didn't want to be buried alive by ceiling rubble if it gave out. And when he came out to check it, he was shocked and pissed. He said that the woman in the couple appears to be working with some people, doing workshops or something. He can see their patio from his apartment window and has watched the group do these dancing and jumping and dirt rituals out there on a weekly basis. He said they all dance and jump to the music and then spread dirt along with something else, he doesn't know exactly what, across the patio on a weekly basis. He believes that the dirt is getting through the wooden cracks, absorbing water and then weighing down my ceiling. In order to fix the problem, my super said he had to go talk to the woman, check out their patio, and ultimately hire a contractor to pull up the wood and scrape out whatever the hell is causing my ceiling to fall. I could hear them talking from my room, and the woman sounded distraught and very defensive. When my super left, he called me and warned me that she might try to come down to my apartment and demand to see the damages, but do not let her in. This was definitely a little concerning to me. Is she a threat? The damage is real. I wouldn't mind showing her. She started playing her music again, relatively loud, kind of like a warning shot. I mentioned the music and jumping to the super, and I told him I have audio recordings. He started begging me to send the evidence to the front office. It sounds like he wanted them evicted. I said, okay, sure. He called me twice more that afternoon to confirm that I shared that evidence, and I told him I did. Shortly after everything went down, I left my apartment to run an errand. The woman was outside just standing on the sidewalk and stared me down the entire time as I walked by. I ignored her. This isn't my fault. Now, today I went to run another quick errand inside my neighborhood, and when I returned, the couple was standing on the sidewalk, both of them this time. And they followed me into the building and then waited until I was opening up my apartment door to confront me. They both were wearing these creepy fake smiles and then started to interrogate me. They asked, "Is your ceiling really collapsing? When did it start?
Do you think it was related to the recent rainfall? Because our patio is just fine.
I felt a little uncomfortable. Were they waiting for me outside? And how did they know I even left the building? Why were they both standing there? I've literally never seen them enter together in the 3 years I've been living here. But I have nothing to hide, so I confirm the damage is pretty bad. I just don't want it to fall during the winter, and I'm sorry for the inconvenience. But hopefully the work will be done quickly for everyone's sake. They seem satisfied enough, so I told them to have a good day and shut my door. I'm getting the sense that they were nervous about what the contractors will find when they tear open their patio. The hell is up with these dirt rituals? Who are these people she's working with? I don't know what they look like, or why they're available to stomp around on weekdays. The repair work had started on both sides, but the contractors will come on Wednesday for the grand reveal of what's underneath that patio and what's making my ceiling collapse. In the meantime, I feel like I need to be alert and keep my eyes out for these people, as well as the couple. It's unusual for me to see them in general, especially twice in 2 days. They seem scared and in denial of the problem. They also literally ambushed me, so hopefully it's over soon. Update: the contractors came today and reported that there was in fact dirt and sludge visible below the neighbor's patio. However, thanks to the help of my internet sleuthing friend, I've gained a lot more insight into the realm that dwells above me. As another Redditor suggested, my neighbor is affiliated with multiple ecstatic dance communities, both international and local. The local international group has planned events during which all cells of the organization host dance sessions. It also has a YouTube channel that streams psych trance music 24/7. I listened to a portion of it and a female voiceover declared, "You are becoming the game master." Meanwhile, the local groups seem to be more inclusive and more radical in their mindset. One of the local groups, hosted by my neighbor's good friend, conducts 3-day events that cost upward of $400 for admission. Participation in all 3 days is mandatory, and the event description mentions it begins with a quote-unquote ritual. The last and darkest affiliation that I've confirmed via social media is that my neighbor and a few members of the local communities are also involved with some compassionate death groups. There's no way for me to verify at this time if these affiliations overlap in any meaningful way, so I will simply state the facts that I have evidence to prove. My super asked me about the jumping again when I saw him today. He agreed with my new game plan, to wait for another large event to happen, then call him to check on my dishwasher so he can intervene. So for now, the ways in which the puzzle pieces of this ecstatic dance, compassionate death, patio dirt ritual, and ceiling collapse connect will remain a complete mystery. So I'm in my early 20s and I'm a female. I moved out on my own for the first time about 2 years ago. I haven't had much to do with any of my neighbors, and have always been slightly uneasy to the fact that no one around here is looking out for me. If anything seems off, no one would notice, or do any investigating to make sure I'm alright. Last year, I noticed a man constantly walking his dogs in the grass area behind my home. This really isn't unusual to see. It's a common area for residents here. His dog is super cute, and my cat liked to play with it through the glass door out back. They would just chase each other back and forth, put their paws up on the glass and such. Real cute stuff. One day, I was outside and his dog came running up to my porch with glee, to get the pets to say hi and to say hi to his kitty friend. This is the first time I've ever spoke to this neighbor, and we'll call him Mark. So Mark seemed decent enough and we got along just fine. We started hanging out pretty often in a short period, because I'm a smoker and he was letting his dog out all the time. Plus it was summer, so we would run into each other quite often, and would spend an hour or more after work most days just talking. This lasted for a couple of weeks. I gave him my phone number and was happy to have a friend in my complex. I will say, he was clearly very interested in either having a romantic relationship with me or at least being butt buddies. He said this quite a lot. Not butt buddies, but you get what I'm saying. I was very honest with him that I wasn't interested in either of those at all, and had to tell him quite often. Frankly, I was getting rather irritated that this came up so often, pretty much every time we spoke. He rather quickly was trying to get me inside his house, from the first time we talked until the last. He offered multiple times, every single time I saw him. I always said no, and would blame it on the fact that I was trying to be very COVID cautious. He would quickly get tired of that excuse, and invited himself into my home now, but I would still always say no. Then one day, he came out while I was smoking with a bottle of wine and a couple of glasses, saying that I need to try this stuff out because it's so delicious. I instantly noticed that the seal was broken. It was a screw cap bottle, and didn't seem like anything was drank out of it. The bottle was filled to the brim, which I also thought was a little odd because usually wine isn't filled to the tippy top like that. So he pours a couple of glasses and doesn't drop a beat in telling me to
take a drink.
I felt very uncomfortable, but I didn't want him to feel like I was being accusational just yet. After he poured himself a glass of this, it's the very same stuff, right? Well, my mama still raised me to be better than that. So I totally faked a sip and said, "Oh, it's good." After any sentence either of us would say, he would again tell me,
take a drink.
I told him I really don't drink, so I'm pacing myself. But I did notice that he had not drank anything, and then told him to please go ahead. He didn't reach for his glass right away, but in the middle of speaking, he reached for his cup and knocked it over, spilling the wine into the grass. He brushed it off rather quickly and told me it's my turn to drink now. And I said, "But you still haven't drank anything. You spilled your drink. Pour yourself another glass. I don't want to drink alone." So he did. He still didn't drink anything though. And not but a few minutes later, he said once again,
take a drink.
I told him, "You need to catch up." We just kept going back and forth like this in circles. He reached for his glass again, and guess what? Spilled it again. Wine is all in the grass now. Then he told me to drink once more. At this point, I'm completely done. Way too many red flags are screaming at me to get the hell out of here. So I'm completely honest with him and told him this seemed very sketchy. And I don't trust the drink because he's refusing to drink any of his and is way too eager for me to drink mine. He just keeps claiming he's clumsy and was taking it slow as well because he doesn't drink a lot. But he has seen me have friends over taking shots and drinking beers and wine. So he knows I'll handle it way better than him. Yet another flag is raised. So he's been watching me. I think it's important to mention that our complex is huge, and he doesn't live particularly close to me. He's about a half a block away and cannot see my windows or yard from where he lives. There's also a few more common area yards that are way closer to him that he could definitely be using for his dog instead of the one right outside of my house. So I just told him flat out, I'm not drinking anything because of how all this seems. He once again pours himself a glass, and once again, you guessed it, spills it. There isn't much left in the bottle at this point. I pour the remaining wine inside his glass and tell him to drink with me on 3. We both raise our glasses, and to my amazement, he actually takes a drink. And I spilled mine into the grass. Oops. He comes out about 2 nights later while I was smoking and instantly starts complaining to me that I wouldn't date him or have sex with him. And he doesn't know why all girls are like this. He starts getting really loud, shouting at me, asking me what the hell the problem with him is, and why won't I do these things. I told him that I'd been honest with him since the day I met him, and that I'm not interested in that. It isn't him specifically. I'm just honest, and I'm not interested in anyone right now. He still continued to shout, and started complaining about his ex and her dog. Yes, her dog. Then proceeded to tell me that he used to, quote unquote, abuse the shit out of that dog. Then went into detail about how he wouldn't feed or water it because it used a bathroom in the house, and how he would kick it really hard. I'm horrified at this point, especially considered this whole time he's telling me he is playing fetch with his dog. His dog always seems scared around him, and I'd even pointed that out to him in the past. He claimed that the previous owners of the dog were abusive, and he's just scared and distrusting. The dog always seemed very excited to see me though, and would cuddle up with me and just stay by me. So I thought I was extra special. But with this knowledge, I just think the poor guy is currently in a very abusive household. So I'm completely done with this guy. Just cut him off and say I needed to go because my friends were waiting on me. Since then, he has sent me several messages of gibberish when he's outside. He will just blow up my phone constantly with text messages, saying like, hey, hi. Also text that looks like he's just slamming his fingers into the keyboard that make absolutely no sense. And it'll just keep going and going. He has texted me telling me he knows I'm home because he's seen me walking around, or that he sees my car in the lot. He would throw his dog toys on my porch. I think he's trying to get my attention to come out, but he'll just sit there, right outside my porch for hours, even when it's cold and rainy, so that's even creepier. I think he thinks since I'm a smoker, somehow I'll eventually come out. I'll just go out to the front when I see he's out there. Thinking back now, he said several things to me before the whole wine fiasco went down that were definitely red flags. I kind of figured it might be a language or cultural thing, because America is the third country he's lived in, and English is also the third language he's learned. I guess the moral of the story is to just trust your gut. He is still bothering me, and like I said, we only spoke and hung out for a few weeks in the summer of 2020. The last message he ever sent me was last night. He asked me what he did wrong, and if I felt disrespected anyway. I didn't respond, and I have not spoken to him since he screamed at me for not sleeping with him, sandwiched with admitting the fact that he's horrible to his dog. I considered answering his text, but the brutal truth of how twisted and creepily he presented himself. And let's not forget how uncomfortable he made me feel. I didn't want to give him any ideas on how he should improve himself. Stay smart, folks. Don't drink things people give you, especially if the seal is broken. He was definitely trying to drug me. I moved out of state to a very small town. On my first day of moving in, a neighbor walking his dog greets me and introduces himself, then proceeds to give me a quick rundown that the neighborhood is filled with tweakers and other shady types. I took this as a general warning that I might be all I'll deal with. So a few months later, he invited me over to his place to teach me how to do some woodwork. We're making a shelf for my cat to sit on as he's asking me questions. To me, they were pretty normal, everyday questions. But looking back now, I realized he was trying to get some kind of information out of me.
Why did you move here from out of state? Who lives with you? Do you have any other family members in the state or the area?
Once we were done, we went to install the shelf. He met my mom, who stays with me. He talks to her for a bit, then we left to walk back to his place. He starts telling me that he can see our yard from his place and noticed that I barely go outside with my dogs. He told me not to worry, that if someone breaks into our place, that he can see them and shoot him from his room. This is when I start thinking, how is it possible that you live over half a block away? Before I can answer him, he asked if I want to see more of the town. I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go. He walks to his car, pulls something out from the middle compartment, and then tells me to go into his pickup truck. So as I do, he filled up the tank. And once he's done, he walks over to the driver's side, opens up the door, and drops a holster between us. He tells me, don't worry, as I look to see if it's a gun or not. As we're driving, I realize he hadn't said a word for about 5 minutes. Coming from the guy who loves to hear his own voice, it just came off as really weird. Another thing I noticed is that we're now on a dirt road, and I haven't seen a single house, trailer, or vehicle for quite a while. I guess I started giving off some nervous vibes because he suddenly goes,
So yeah, unless you know where you're going out here, you'll get lost. It's best to have a pickup or ATV to drive out here.
After another 10 minutes or so of silent driving, we get to a little creek. Thankfully, and lucky for me, there was another truck there. All he said is,
Oh, look at that. Someone else is out here with us.
And he grabs the holster and gets out. We both see a lady with a big dog playing in the water. She turns to us as she sees him walking close to her. She gestures to his holster and he tells her not to worry about it. It's just for the snakes. She lifts up her shirt and above her waist to show that she has a gun. And she tells him,
I'm not worried about it one bit.
They talk for a few minutes. And then she tells him that her husband is home waiting for her to make dinner. She's just out letting the dog have some playtime. The neighbor changes his tone and posture from confident to defensive now. She called her dog back and they went to their own truck. He's still watching her and she hasn't started the truck yet. A few minutes pass and he tells me, I guess it's time we go too. When we get into his truck and then the lady drove off. When they drive back, I start to get really uneasy and really creeped out. Why would he drive me all the way out there just to leave? Why tell me not to worry about the holstered gun, but tell the lady what it's for? I finally get out of my head and just break the silence and give him my life story as to why I moved. He finally breaks the silence of his own and says he can relate to my story and gives me the rundown of how the town is and what it's all about. And that some people are way more racist than others and I should watch my back for that. Once we got back to his place, I tell him I have some stuff to take care of at home and I nope the hell out of there. I told myself then and there that if I ever hang out with this guy ever again, it won't be all alone. I'm a 26-year-old female and I recently moved into an apartment with my boyfriend. We instantly fell in love with the place and with the price. We got approved and not long after we moved in. The place is in a college town area. There's a bar nearby, grocery stores, and fast food places. Nothing out of the ordinary nor sketchy. On the day of the move-in, our landlord gave us our keys and quickly briefed us on the neighbors. There were only 4 apartments in the complex. The landlord said they are very reserved for the most part. One neighbor is very scared of COVID-19, so they stay inside. The neighbor across from us seemed to be very reserved as well. Now, I saved the best for last, our bottom floor neighbor. Let's call him Cal. As we were walking up towards our place,
The landlord said, oh yeah, that's Cal. He's very weird.
my boyfriend and I looked at each other like, what does that mean? His windows and doors were wide open. The landlord explained that he did not have AC at the moment, so we ignored it and continued unpacking. We had had prior plans to leave town, so we did not spend the first few nights there. But upon our arrival back, we discovered why he was weird. When we first saw him, we said hello and made some comment about the weather. He seemed confused or disoriented and said,
yeah, okay.
As the days passed, we would say hi, and he would reciprocate at times. It was obvious that he was socially awkward. If I pulled up into our parking lot and he saw me, he would scurry back into his room. Thought it was unusual, but just brushed it off. We thought that was to the extent of his weird, but boy, were we very wrong. Slamming, shoving, and hitting his doors started at night, but only at night. The slamming and banging was so loud that it would wake us up. When we got closer to our door, we heard him yelling, and we finally understood why he was deemed weird. This continued for many nights in a row. We would notice that he just stands in the middle of the parking lot and talk to himself. If he sees me, he would go back inside. Things escalated this past weekend, however. It was late in the evening and we were just chilling watching TV when we heard a knock. We immediately knew it had to be Cal. My boyfriend answered the door and Cal asked if we had seen a young Asian woman walking around. My boyfriend said no and then he walked away. Last night I came back from visiting my family, and immediately after I came home, Cal went upstairs and he knocked on our door again. My boyfriend answered the door and then Cal asked if we'd seen his mom walking around. Boyfriend answered him and sternly told him no and closed the door. This morning at 6 a.m. we heard an extremely loud knock. I awoke immediately. I went to the door but I did not see anyone. But I saw a flashlight outside. I got super scared and woke up my boyfriend. We looked out the window and saw that there was a police officer. From what we can make out, Cal called the police due to hearing a gunshot and a young woman scream. My boyfriend has been up since 5 a.m. and stated he did not hear any of that. At this point, we are on edge with this dude. If he comes upstairs again, we're gonna tell him to ask the other neighbors. Here's a few updates that have happened since. Right as I finished typing this, the previous tenant texted me, stating that Cal was really weird while they lived there as well. Cal would constantly talk to himself. They also told me they caught security footage of Cal going up the stairs near the door, and then started working out. Cal noticed the camera and then went back downstairs. So yeah, we will be installing cameras very soon. Yesterday before I left to visit my family, I heard someone say hello and shuffle around my front door. I can only imagine who it was. It creeped me out because it was right after my boyfriend left to go golf. He also said he heard Cal go up the stairs after the police left at 6 a.m. and say hello again, trying to get someone's attention. I mentioned this in the comments below, but my plan is to call the non-emergency police line in the event he continues to be erratic towards myself or my boyfriend. I really hope it doesn't get to that point. My final edit is yes, I know this man is mentally ill. However, this does not negate the fact that he purposefully tries to talk to us late during hours in the night. Compassion is shown, but boundaries will be set. I wish him the best, but for our safety, including his, is very prudent. Hey guys, thanks for listening if you stuck around to this point. If you haven't yet, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, and that notification bell to be notified when future episodes come out. If you have a true scary story of your own, feel free to send it to my email or post it to my subreddit. You can stalk me on Twitter, you can stalk me on Facebook, and you can also stalk me on Instagram. All these links are below. Hey guys, what's going on? Hope you enjoyed this episode. I realized that these all stories were really good, but they're all kind of similar in the sense that it's like the stalkerish shit, but I realized I hadn't done a neighbors episode in a while, and I had, if you remember from last episode, I have a surplus of stalker episodes, so, or not stalker episodes, stalker stories. So I thought, what better than to utilize those? You know, why not? Why not? I know you were thinking the same thing. Like you were just sitting there at night, eating handfuls of cheese and stepping on thousands and thousands of those cheese puffs you have just laying on your floor while your cat meows in the background, and you're just thinking to yourself, man, why doesn't he use those stories that he has surpluses for? You're losing sleep about it at night. I know I am too, and I'm here to tell you, friend, you can sleep now. It's over. The war's over. All right, thank you. Thank you for thanking me. Today was a hard day. It's gonna sound cheesy and, you know, extra cheesy maybe, one might even say, but I sold my motorcycle today. No more street glide. No more having the breeze between my knees. You know? I sold it so that I could spend less time at work and more time in my little closet / studio producing and creating and doing content, because I really want to be a full-time YouTuber. I want to be the guy that creates content and does this for a living. It would be fucking amazing and a dream come true, and I'm gonna keep pursuing that and doing my absolute best to hopefully one day, if it's a year from now, 2 years from now, whatever, you know, get to the point where I can make enough money to self-sustain myself and help support myself and my family. So honestly, no jokes, I genuinely mean this. Anyone that's listening to this that likes my channel and likes my stuff and enjoys this content, and you support me, even just by liking or dropping a comment, like that shit means a lot to me, and I appreciate every single one of you. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Genuinely, it means the world to me, and I hope that one day I can get there and I can, you know, do this for a living. But I'm happy to have you along the ride with me regardless of what happens. So I appreciate y'all, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.